We're back with Michael Boss. We were just talking about this being a very, very busy day. One of the things that Ken Ruge was talking about today was exorcism. So I was trying to remember that phrase. Was it idle hands or the devil's workshop?
I think so.
Oh,
yes.
boy.
I think so.
We've been very, very busy today. One of my favorite expressions I read in a book, and it said, change does not require our permission to occur. It happens.
That is a great statement, because it does. There is no way to stay the same, regardless whether we want to or not. I mean, it just happens, absolutely.
So this series on change, personally and globally, and all of the other ways that we can change, it doesn't happen all at once, but change doesn't necessarily say, hey, I'm going to change you tomorrow. Look out for it. It just happens.
Yes.
What do we do with this sudden change that happens within us, or perhaps transformation?
Yeah, I think being aware that we change is what's so helpful, because often we don't recognize that we're changing.
Right.
And it's that quote, I think I did it 2 weeks ago in the sermon, that, you know, we had the experience but missed the meaning. And we can be going through these changes and realize that, not realize that we've been changing, and not realize the opportunity to grow, not realize the opportunity to learn. So.
Wow. Here we go. Tom.
Okay. This is our first question from Antoine in Reading, Pennsylvania. He says, every time I try to change a bad habit, I end up losing steam and gradually going back to it. And if I do end up changing a bad habit, it just seems to happen. Because I've replaced it with some others. Is there any guidance, or I guess he means it just seems not to happen because I've replaced it with some others. Is there any guidance in the Bible about sticking with something you want to change?
That is a great question, and who hasn't experienced that? I'm thinking about my diet right now.
I'm thinking about my diet too.
Yeah.
We're in trouble.
But when it comes to the habits we don't want, I think biblically, one of the things that it talks about is the importance of being in community when change occurs. So to go it alone, we only have so much willpower, and we run out of willpower. There's a limited supply of that. There's studies about that now. But what we really need to do is find our way into a community that we have the support, the reminders, the accountability, the encouragement to be able to keep going. I think that's why the power of the church is there, because we're called into a community where these changes can take root and have staying power.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. This is from Catherine here in New York. She asks, in a city where everyone is in a hurry, how can we remember to slow down and make sure we are the light in the world for others? It's a great question. And usually when someone says that's a great question, because it is, and it gives a chance to think. So I'm thinking. And you're right, in New York City, we are on the go, we're always moving to something, and because we move so quickly and there are so many people around us, we stop looking at people. I think we don't even notice the people around us.
Right,
So I think part of it is maybe we can still be in a hurry, but we just need to look up and look around and see who's around us. Because sometimes, like I mentioned that encounter with that lady, that little encounter, slowing down long enough to let her catch up, was such a blessing for me. And maybe a smile or something to someone, just passing them by, will help brighten somebody who's traveling through a bit of darkness in their lives.
The thing is, we have a million opportunities to do that every day here in New York.
We do. And it's amazed me. Some people will, I now live here, but if I ever, being in a new neighborhood now, will stop and look around, indicating that I'm either a tourist or lost, it's amazing to me the number of people who will come up and say, hey, you know, do you need some help? That brightens my day. That radiates a little light and love in my life. So watching for those opportunities is great.
That's great. Yes?
I'm wondering, and I haven't checked out the whole website to know what's being said right now publicly, but I'm wondering what we can do as a congregation at Marble to make a statement about our moral indignation over what is happening for the children who are separated, 20,000 children who are being warehoused. And as an educator, I know that these kids are not being well taken care of. And listening to the news, I've been being told that in 3 weeks, nothing's going to be changed about this situation. And I just feel like churches have a moral obligation to stand up about this and do as much as we can. So I'm wondering how we can empower ourselves, and maybe something is already being done that I'm not aware of.
Yes. Well, certainly, yeah, we certainly wanted to put something out there that really talked about the tragedy and trauma that separations like this brings to families. And that would be even if the conditions were great that they were in. Separating children from families is a very traumatic thing. And our call as Christians, our moral obligation, is to be those in the world that help mend a broken world, to be instruments of God for that, and not contribute to its brokenness. And so that was what our statement was about. Personally, I'm also connected to those that are making their voices heard or joining in letters together, because that's really what it will take. It's a political issue. So if we want to affect change, we need to find ways to reach out to those who are electeds in office, to let them know what we want to see and what needs to be done in this situation so that families can be reunited.
Is the church making a public statement?
We
Yes.
did. We did already a week ago. Yes.
How about Marble Church?
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry,
How about Marble? I mean, the RCA did, but how about Marble?
No, Marble did as
No,
well.
Marble did. Marble,
we did a week
the
ago.
question was
Yes.
whether or not Marble Church did something. Marble Church did, yes, and will continue.
What we did for Marble was put it through our social media platforms to let people know about what I just said, so that it gets out there, and calling on people that we need to join our voices together so that we're heard, so that we can affect change, because that's really what it is about now. It's not just one voice, it's not just my voice, it's all of our voices joining together to reach out to people to let them know.
Yeah.
So how would I connect to that? Because I didn't get anything. How do I find out about that?
Yeah, that would be something. In fact, I can send you some links. There is a friend that helps provide the links that one can go to have their voices heard. Because it's something we have to do individually. It's not a collective thing, so we need to resource people to know how they can respond in the most effective way.
And also, you can go on our social media. It's on Facebook, any of our social media platforms. That statement is present.
Great, that's what I wanted to know.
Yes.
Thanks.
And then you can share it among everyone you need to. Okay. Tom. You literally dropped the mic. That's
I got it.
He did a mic
Okay.
drop. We're not done yet.
Okay, this is from Lauren. She says, sometimes it seems as though churches have the hardest time with change. Why do you think that is? And how can we help to move the church along with the changing times?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. It's because I think the churches are just as resistant to change as people are. Because the church is comprised of people. And so when we think about a church changing, it means people changing. And you can even see the ingrained habits of where people sit. You know, you get to know, I'm starting to look out and I know people by where they sit. And I thought, if we really want to shake things up and just start to think about change, which I almost did, but I'm only 2 months in.
That's right.
I was going to have everybody sit in a different place to really shake things up. But we didn't do that. And so I think it's just a human tendency. You know, we're afraid of the unknown, and change means unknown.
Yeah, don't ask people to change seats just yet.
Yeah. I'll wait till I'm a
That'll
little more
take a while.
clout.
Tom.
Okay, this is from Marvin in Waterbury, Connecticut. He asks, do you think Jesus was trying to change the world in general, or more the specific region in which he lived and his teachings were just universal?
Another insightful question, really. My belief would be that I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think the idea of the world, that any place where there are people, there needs to be that light and love of God. So I think Jesus' teaching was about reaching everyone.
Yeah.
At the same time, I also think that it's a universal, and that is its appeal. Particularly the Sermon on the Mount. That is something that people have gone back to again and again and again. And it really has informed and inspired people.
The Great Commission then would be the global part, go out into all the world, but yet here's your neighborhood, here's your community, here's
Yes, you
are.
can't forget, sometimes we can be so global, we have no local connection to actually affect change.
Yeah.
So it really is a matter of being rooted in your communities, as well as having a global focus.
Yes, Tom.
Okay, this is from Marilyn in Bay Ridge, New York. She says, change is something that I struggle with a lot. How can we face change with strength and confidence without knowing what the change will bring?
You know, I think first I need to say some people thrive on change.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about fear of change, but the truth is there are people out there that just embrace change, want change, and if things aren't changing, they're bored. And there are other personality types where change is very difficult.
Yeah.
And if this particular person's personality is such that change is difficult, I think then just taking change in smaller increments, and I'll go back to something I said earlier to a question, was rooting yourself in a community like this, because I think if people can support you in the changes that you hope for and to know that you won't be alone when the uncertainty comes, I think that can make a world of difference for people. But I think what's even more difficult than the uncertainty is thinking that if we move ourselves into a new position and we're going to end up walking the journey alone.
So for someone to resist change actually is to desire safety, to desire the familiarity of that zone that they happen to be in, and any change would threaten that. But that safety could lead to solitude.
Yes, you can isolate yourself by protecting yourself.
Yeah.
I can remember my father who wanted me to help embrace change. And so I was a high school student and we were on a college campus, and I really felt very self-aware, and I did not want to walk through this kind of cafeteria setting alone.
I know that
And
setting.
my dad was like, you know, you just go for it, do it. You know, you need to be able to be comfortable to go places, new people, and just be you. And that stuck with me. Didn't make it any easier, but it got me to make that walk.
I know some people who still play tennis with the old wooden rackets and refuse to change to anything else because that's their racket. That's what they want to have.
I need to talk to them because that's just not right. That's not right.
Yes, Tom.
Okay, this question is from Camden, New Jersey. It doesn't have a name. The question is, what does God say about growing up and being independent? In other words, moving away for college, making your own decisions, or just growing up in general?
The Bible speaks a lot, and there's Proverbs. Proverbs come to mind immediately that talk about how there is a maturation process, and part of the goal of parents is not to raise children to be dependent upon them, but to raise the children to be dependent upon God and be able to move out in the world with confidence. And so I think from that standpoint, it addresses the idea of our children growing and developing that confidence and trust that they can move out into the world with who they are and where they are and be successful in that.
There's the idea through Proverbs of grace as well as wisdom. Those are parts of it, the maturation into grace and wisdom as you're going along the journey to grow up.
Yes.
To grow up into that.
And part of it, and now I'm thinking about parenting, the challenges of parenting,
Yes.
but part of it is allowing our children to make mistakes and recognizing that there's an age we can't do everything we did for them before. We can't control situations.
Yeah.
You almost have to have our own trust to let them go and know that they may make some mistakes along the way and we can't prevent that, but we can be there to help them pick up the pieces afterwards.
You mean I can't take my 40-something-year-old daughter and cut her food for her, as you talked about last week? All right, one more question.
Okay, this is from Jonathan in Larchmont, New York. He says, I think many people go into relationships hoping to change others. Do you think that we can ever expect to change our peers, or is this something that needs to come from within?
Boy.
Yeah, I think, and I thought about this in the sermon about relationships, but didn't say anything about it, that there's a sense in which we can hope for certain changes in others, meaning we watch people struggle or maybe with depression or despair or have made some bad choices in their life, and you can hope that they might make better choices and live in a way that they feel that they're flourishing. But I don't think we can, our job is to affect that change or control that change. All we can do is provide loving support and encouragement, and when they fall down, be there to help them get back up. And when they succeed, to celebrate with them. But I don't think we ourselves can change them.
Yeah. That's a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, but God can use us to do that, right?
Yes.
God will use us, but not because we're trying to control their destiny, just that we're open to being used by God for the changes that they need in their life.
Wasn't there a Broadway show, something about I love you, you're perfect, now change?
Oh,
It happens. We're going to go to a replay of the, no, we're not, but we're actually going to do the Fragmented Lives. That's right. You got to get out of here.
I do. I
You
need
have
to
a
go to
book
the next
signing. It's a busy man today. So that's going to be down in the Labyrinth Room. And this is Pride Sunday, so go out and celebrate. And we'll be back again next time. Thank you.
Thank you.